about it. So I'm very excited to introduce Aaron and Joe. I've birded with them a few times and I've worked with them a few times, and their passion is super inspiring. So I'm very excited to introduce these people. But yeah, so Erin, she is the Associate Director of the Cochran Center for Biodiversity at UWGB, where she has worked for 15 years. She helps seek funding and provide direction for administrative, academic, and outreach operations of the CCB. Using her extensive background in ornithology, wildlife monitoring, and project management, she serves as a principal director of the GLCWMP, which is the Great Lakes Coastal Wetland Monitoring Program. She also serves for the Oneida Bird Monitoring Program and the land management of UWGB natural areas. She is the founding advisor for the campus student organization, Bird Alliance of UW Green Bay, and the president of Northeastern Wisconsin Bird Alliance. Joe serves as the outreach specialist for Oneida Bird Monitoring Program, for which he has been involved since 2022. He leads the program's outreach activities, including tabling events such as the Oneida's Farmers Market, so definitely go and check that out. 2 annual Oneida Youth Summer Camps, activities for Oneida tribal elders, annual banquet for their volunteers, and bird outings for the community. Joe is an integral member of the Oneida Bird Monitoring Program, as he brings expertise and background in Oneida culture, language, and history, and the Oneida community, outreach, and education. Joe plays an active and critical role in the Wisconsin LGBTQIA2+ community, including organizing Pride events and hosting the first Two-Spirit powwow this upcoming summer. The presentation today is going to feature an overview of the Oneida Bird Monitoring Program, including highlights of the restoration success as told by the birds, our outreach activities, and some lessons learned along the way.
Great, thank you, Anthony. All right, let me just pull up this presentation and we are going to get started, and then we'll pass this over to our guests here. Oops.
You're doing great. Share stuff. Yep. Yeah. Good.
I think this is the one I want. And we'll go to share screen and I'll get out of your way. Okay, hopefully that little thing will go away. Let me hide this real quick. Okay,
Wow.
we should be good.
You're doing
All right.
awesome. We give you a
Thank you. We can be disaster.
It's fantastic to have somebody tech savvy. Thank you. I appreciated hearing from Anthony. I didn't know a couple of the things that you shared with us, so thank you. I didn't realize that that program really kickstarted your birding interest, so I thought that was pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
We're really glad to have you as a volunteer. So again, I'm Erin. My friend and colleague Joe are really happy to be here tonight to introduce to you the Oneida Bird Monitoring Program and some of the activities and themes that we are heavily involved in with this project. Oh, it'd help if I turned it on. It'll wake up in a minute. Otherwise, I'll just use this. So here's an overview of what Joe and I are going to go through with you tonight. So first, Joe will share with you a little bit about the history of the Oneida people and how they came to Wisconsin. A little bit of a history lesson there. And then we'll introduce to you the Oneida Bird Monitoring Program. We'll share with you the goals of the project and some of the highlights of the birds that we have observed there, which I'm sure you'll be excited to hear about since you all are bird lovers like ourselves, and how we use data and work collaboratively with the Oneida Nation to inform land management decisions. And then Joe is going to share with us a lot of the amazing outreach activities that he leads with our team and our students and our volunteers, and also highlighting ways that we integrate Oneida knowledge, culture, and history into the program. And then he and I will share the last slide and close with some lessons learned about managing this program and some advice if you're interested in managing a volunteer program or working with the tribe is kind of where we'll be at with closing. Great, so I'll let Joe stay here and share with you this. Did you want the laser pointer or are you good?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you. Siglis Wawik, Tehana Ogali, Dotaurus, Neyuyat. I just said, welcome everybody. My Oneida name is Tehana, which means he crosses the village. And my birth certificate name is Joe Torres. But anyway, so this is, if any of you, if you're not familiar with the Oneida tribe, we originally are from upstate New York. And then there are three major bands of Oneida. The biggest one would be in Oneida, Wisconsin. And when we first came, we had all this land in the green. It was like something like 650,000 acres. But then due to the Allotment Act, and I won't go into all those gory details, this is what it is right now, that purple. And we're constantly trying to get land back, and we have, but it's been a slow process. But we came here, there were like three major groups. I think we finally settled in Wisconsin in, is it 1823? Right around there. But yeah, so we're originally from upstate New York. The other two bands, there's a small band of Oneidas that stayed in upstate New York. It's really small. And then the second largest band is in Canada, near Quebec, that area over there. It's really beautiful. And that's actually, because the Oneidas that migrated to Wisconsin, a lot of them were already Christianized and colonized. And so a lot of our culture, our language was lost. And so right around in the early 1970s, when we were finally able to practice our dances, our culture, we didn't know anything. And so we called on our brothers and sisters in Canada who kept very much traditional. And so we learned from them. And I just recently have learned a lot because I didn't grow up that way. My mom was very Christian Episcopalian, so I didn't know any of my own culture. I didn't learn that to later use in my life. But anyway, so yeah, so that would be our migration process.
Thank you, Joe. Normally when Joe and I give this presentation, we often have other people with us sharing on the talk. So the slide here is actually what Tony Kuchma will usually present on. He works for Oneida Nation for the tribe and does all the restoration work at Oneida. So he and a team of many people and partners have restored roughly 3,000 acres of land into native plant communities. And when I say restore, I mean from dirt, from agricultural croplands into magnificent places like 1,000 acres of prairie, 1,000 acres of wetland, and 1,000 acres of forest. And it's just continuing to grow and grow and grow. And what his approach to restoration is using a headwaters down approach. So for example, I know you all are very familiar with rivers here in Stevens Point. We saw how high it was today. That's also happening where we are. But we have the Fox River that empties into the Bay of Green Bay, part of Lake Michigan, and a lot of tributaries that also empty into the Bay or into the Fox, into the Bay. And there are a couple of significant tributaries on Oneida Nation's lands, and their approach is to work on improving, restoring function at the headwaters, at the start of where those streams are, which makes a lot of sense if you can do that. Of course, that's not always possible, but if you were to restore, at the mouth or near the bottom of the stream where it empties, like all the agriculture and urban runoff is going to run into the stream and this not be effective and could destroy or erode whatever it is down there. And so they're really tackling the beginnings of streams. So the place that Joe and I will share with you today is on the left is called Trout Creek, and it's the headwaters of Trout Creek here. And this used to be like an oat, barley, soybean field that he restored into about 300 acres of native prairie and a few hundred acres of wetland, which is what you're seeing here, and then another 100 or so of they're trying to reforest here. And this was put in 2018 or 19,
Yeah, right on
like
that.
fall of that
Yep.
time, so it's pretty new. Coyote Run is another site that we monitor, that Oneida has restored, again, from dirt to this magnificent place. This is about 20 years old now, and also was an agricultural crop field and restored to a magnificent wetland, functioning wetland with huge amounts of wild rice, actually. That's been very successful. So that's sort of the approach. And I just want to brag a little bit about Oneida Nation. We're reaping the benefits from the bird perspective, but it's because they've been really thinking carefully about how they manage their land. So you're here tonight to learn about the Oneida Bird Monitoring Program. So we'll start off by sharing the goals of the program. So, and they're not in any particular order. I've just sort of always shared them this way. But the first goal, one goal of the program is we are trying to document and take inventory of the birds that use Oneida Nation land, specifically places that Oneida has restored. So these roughly 3,000 acres of land. And we're monitoring migratory shorebirds, migratory waterfowl, and a suite of breeding species. And volunteers go out between mid-March till gun deer opens, essentially, so mid-November. And the data that we're collecting, we're using and working collaboratively with the Oneida Nation to make decisions on the land, management decisions. I'll talk about that later. We're also really trying to build a community of bird watchers. In the Green Bay area, there's a lot of siloed bird clubs, including our Northeastern Wisconsin Bird Alliance chapter. And this project, and then I should also clarify, there are also bird lovers that are not members of anything, and they just enjoy being outside. And so this program has really allowed us to bring people of all backgrounds, of all ages and abilities together to go and enjoy birds together. The last two bullets are my favorite. The last two goals are my absolute favorite. I am a bird biologist. I'm an avid birder. I love birds, but this is by far the number one most impactful, most meaningful, my most favorite project I've ever worked on in the 15 years that I've worked here at my job in Wisconsin here at the university. And this is why, is because the bird monitoring program is more than birds, it's people as well. And we are really lucky to work with Joe and others who I will introduce in a little bit to be able to integrate Oneida's beautiful culture, language, and history throughout the program. And you'll experience and learn about how we're doing that. And then most importantly, in my opinion, is we're really working towards building bridges between non-tribal people like myself and Oneida and other Indigenous people that are a part of the Oneida community. And the Oneida community is extremely welcoming when you come at things from a good place and come in with a good heart. They're very welcoming, and I am extremely thankful and extremely privileged to be a part of this program, thanks to their openness. I will want to give credit. I think this is the first image we have. There's going to be bird images throughout here. These are original illustrations by our Joe and I's friends and graduate students, actually, two of them, Haley Sparger and Sarah Bauman. He'll talk about why we have these cool illustrations, but anyway, these are originals by our students that are extremely talented scientists and artists. How that happened, I don't know. I mean, that's amazing. I'm a stick figure kind of a drawer person. Before Joe and I get too far, I do want to mention, and I guess I kind of hinted at this, that normally we present with other people, not just the two of us. And I want you to understand that we are just two of dozens, in fact, over 100 faces of this program. We're just here, the two people who are happening to talk to you tonight. But the Oneida Bird Monitoring Program is very much an integrated collaboration and partnership, relationship, friendship with four groups of people. So UW Green Bay, that's where Joel and I work. Anthony mentioned I'm also president of the Northeastern Wisconsin Bird Alliance. That's an Audubon chapter, just like you. So that's a smattering of other faces that help lead this program. And in fact, most of the faces on the left are students or recently graduated students. We also, of course, work with the Oneida Nation of Wisconsin here. Here is Tony, the person we have mentioned a couple of times. He is the team leader for restoring those 3,000 acres of land. We're also really lucky to work with some other friends of ours. Randy Cornelius, who is an Oneida tribal elder and cultural leader. He's an archivist as well. And then we have other folks here, Amber Paulus, Devin Metoxen, and Brian Viju, and Elena Knoll also all work towards the Oneida Bird Monitoring Program. And of course, Joe gets to be in two buckets because he works for the university and he's an enrolled citizen of the Oneida Nation. You'll also see another repeat face, Brian Viju. He is an enrolled Oneida citizen, and then he also works for Audubon Great Lakes, and Tom Presby and some of these other faces. I won't spend the whole night explaining all the faces, but I do want you to understand that this is a big part. They're all a big part of the leadership team. And honestly, if any one of our components or partners weren't there, the project would fall apart. It's one of those where we really are integrated and partnered on this program. Now, there are more faces yet to continue with. So we are lucky to hire a suite of students. We have some state funding that Governor Evers passed into law that funds our program. The last 2 years, we're still waiting for the next 2 years. We were supposed to get the money in July 1 of last year and still don't have it, but we're trying our best to keep afloat. But with those money, we've been able to hire a lot of folks, right? So on the right are a suite of our college students. Many are continuing, some are new and incoming that are not pictured here. The other cool thing is we've got high school interns now too, through the Freshwater Collaborative of Wisconsin, which is another program that funds them. They earn almost as much, if not as the same as I pay entry-level college students. That's how good the money is. And they get a stipend, a budget for supplies and equipment. And we were really lucky to have 4 high schoolers with us last summer. And then these two on the left, Marley and Emma, are continuing with us this coming summer. And then we're going to hire a new one. And Tony's hiring one. So it'll still be 4 this summer. And so they all help with the program. But those are those faces. I know there's 2 more slides with faces. Okay, so the next slide is, this is a volunteer program. So if there was yet another domino that would fall, which would be devastating, is our volunteer base. We have incredibly dedicated volunteers that go out weekly from mid-March to mid-November every single week and go out and conduct these bird surveys and collect the data. And these are a smattering of experts that we've had collect data over the years. 2 of the people here drive 1 hour each way every single week to come and share their knowledge with the group. And so the way it's designed is they sign up for a day or however many days they want for the year. And they bring out a small group of other volunteers with them, which is a really cool opportunity to share information, exchange knowledge. The experts will end up letting others share their spotting scopes and point out and say, well, this is why it's a greater yellowlegs and not a lesser yellowlegs. And it'll be a really cool teaching moment. If you're lucky enough to have Tony or Randy, then you get to learn about plants. Or in case of Randy, he's really great, has great information about Oneida medicine. And so you'll get to learn about plants or bugs or whatever else it is besides that. So those other groups of volunteers that come out is a tiny little snapshot of what is shown here. Here's your friend Anthony here on the slide. He's one of those people that are so dedicated to coming out and collecting data with this team. So just keep that in mind. It's showing me tonight, but it's a lot of others, a lot of other people as well. So another important point I wanted to share with you is data sovereignty. Anybody heard of tribal sovereignty for like a Native American tribes? I see a lot of head nods. So that means they are a sovereign nation, a governing nation. They have their own laws, their own rules, their own elected officials and leaders and ways of life. And yes, I'm a scientist. Yes, I'm a bird nerd. Yes, I love going out and collecting bird data, but the bird data that I collect are not mine. They are owned and they have their own sovereign status, just like the tribe. The data has sovereignty as well. So the data we collect, we are housing for the tribe. We have students that spend hundreds of hours entering the data, managing them in spreadsheets, intaking all of the data forms and organizing those, but ultimately they do belong to the Oneida Nation. That's a really important point because there have been a lot of cases of Western scientists that steal data from tribal people. So we like to make a point to share that. The data are not ours, but we are happy to collect it and manage it and provide it to the tribe. Okay, so where are we monitoring? So Joe shared with you kind of a big picture of Oneidas, where they are today, outside of Green Bay, Wisconsin. You might be familiar with the Austin Straubel Airport, I think is right here. Does that sound right, Joe?
Yep.
Yeah, this little indentation. And so this is the this is the nation's boundaries. And we monitor primarily at 4 locations, although in the breeding season, we do scatter a little bit further beyond those. But these are our primary locations where we are monitoring migratory waterfowl right now, of course. Shorebirds start tomorrow for the surveys, at least. It'll be slow, I'm sure, but that we will start monitoring shorebirds starting tomorrow. And we do that through, like end of May or so, and then repeat them again come spring, come fall, and then all the way through mid-November. And then in the summertime, roughly May to August, we do various breeding surveys, including breeding bird atlasing. Did anybody help with the Wisconsin breeding bird atlas project? Either the first one or the second one? I see a couple hands. Yeah, so the first one was 95 to 2000. The second one was 2015 to 2019. We use those same methods and we're collecting breeding observations in addition to standardized point counts. Okay, next. Now, the birds, right? Cool, Henslow sparrow that Sarah illustrated. What is so cool about this project, and I hope Joe will share a story that he usually tells about sandhill cranes. But it's really, and I'm totally off camera, I just remembered. Sorry, everybody back there. What is really cool about this project is about the restoration work that they've done is it's really been a case of build it and the birds will come. That 300-acre grassland I mentioned to you is the largest, has the most native plants, most contiguous chunk of grassland anywhere close to Buena Vista Marsh. There's just nothing like it anywhere in northeastern Wisconsin, not at the 300-acre scale, right? Sure, we have our university has 50 acres or 20 or 10 acres, these sort of small ones. This is that is the biggest at Trout Creek. And the birds are telling us, hey, this place is awesome. And we are really, really lucky. We have birds, grassland birds in steep decline that are using this for nesting and reproduction. We have eastern meadowlark, bobolink, dickcissel, Savannah sparrow, sedron, Henslow sparrow. One year we got a grasshopper sparrow, which is really rare. And Henslow sparrow is a state threatened species, and we didn't have 1 or 2. We had at least 6 just singing males, right? There's probably females also there. So it really is a case of Oneida Nation is a fantastic place for many reasons. I gave grassland birds as an example, but we have almost every species of possible migratory shorebird that's ever passed through northeastern Wisconsin. We've got waterfowl. There's over 200 species total reported. And that list is higher than our point counts because a lot of our volunteers submit eBird checklists. And so we have even more information. These aren't even accurate. I haven't tallied these in a while, but it's over, I'm sure it's over 300,000 individual birds have been counted by our volunteers, over 1,600 surveys, and over 130 people, which I think all of those are underestimates. So our volunteers and students are dedicated to the success of this project. So Joe and I thought we'd share with you a few of kind of highlights of what our team of volunteers and students witnessed over this last summer. Excited to see what happens in 2026. But we had northern harriers, not too surprising considering that cool interface that we have of wetland and prairie. They use it a lot. So do short-eared owls in the winter. But we did eventually, I think it was Sarah and other volunteers that stumbled on a nest. We do not actively nest search. It was one of those things where you're walking, and then whoo, then the bird flies out, right under your feet. It was that kind of a situation. Pied-billed grebes, that is a marsh obligate breeding bird species where they require marshes to breed. There are tons of pied-billed grebe nests. And we know that because of we don't find the nests, but we find all the babies, right? The chicks that are using this is just like off the charts. I do a lot of work in the coastal wetlands of the Great Lakes, and you're lucky to get a pied-billed grebe. This is like 100 acres, and there's easily could be 10 nesting pairs easily. It's incredible. And multiple Henslow sparrows. I guess I spilled the beans on the last slide, but that is truly a truly significant bird. Wilson's phalaropes. Anybody seen a phalarope before? Yeah, phalaropes are cool. Fun fact about phalaropes that I love to share is that they are sexually dimorphic, so the males and females look different, but the pretty version of the bird is the female. So the females are the really attractive looking, have the attractive looking feathers, and she lays the eggs, and she mates with the male, and then she lays eggs, and then she's like, bye. He incubates and raises the chicks all by himself, and she's like, see you later. I'll see you never, really. You know, she's out of there. Sign me up for that. I have a 6-year-old. That'd be great. So anyway, Wilson's phalaropes are really, really rare breeders of Wisconsin. And the second breeding bird atlas, there were at most 10 nesting pairs in the whole state of Wisconsin. We have three nesting pairs of Wilson's phalarope at this one wetland. And they are crazy and dive bomb you if you get too close by accident. And they're fiercely protected. And of course, accidentally stumbled. What a shame, man. God, I would have killed to see those babies. Looks like Sarah's the one who found those. The other cool bird that we have, which has a little video with it, are black terns. You hear the squeak, 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 squeak. Those are the adults. The bird that is in the middle is a fledgling black tern. So black tern is a state threatened species in great decline. They used to be in huge numbers in the Bay of Green Bay, but of course, people destroyed the wetlands, destroyed all their habitat, and I've only heard of one possible breeding record of black tern in the last decade in Lower Green Bay, and it's not this one. So this is a second opportunity that our experts stumbled on. And then we had our students paddle out to confirm what we thought we were seeing, you know, through a teeny little speck of a spotting scope. And so they paddled out, and sure as heck, there they were. It was true. So that's a pretty big deal. Other fun rarities that we've gotten is eared grebe. That's a pretty unusual find. Again, it's usually our volunteers that are coming back with this stuff, can't make it up. And red-necked grebe, less rare. Eared grebe I've only seen once before, seen a few rednecks, but they're both excellent, exciting birds that have decided to stop and use the site as a migratory stopover location. I'm sure everyone's going to stare at the tufted duck. Tufted ducks are from Asia, Eurasia, right? Eastern Europe and Asia. What does that bird look like to you? If you ignore the tuft, what do you see?
Golden eye.
A scot. I thought I heard scot. Scot or ring-necked duck would be another option. Yes, absolutely. But again, one of our experts paid really close attention. I would have definitely written this guy off as a ringneck or something, or a scop or something. But of course, they're so dang good. They're so good.
Sarah and Emily, I was there that day.
Oh, you
Yeah,
found, okay,
yeah.
you were there.
But it was really funny because I'm still learning about birds. But to see Sarah and Emily get so excited, I'm like, what's going on? But like they're like, what, like they're waving their hands like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I'm like, what? And it was really funny because the way it happened was Sarah had to leave, and so she was going back to her car. She had Emily keep on watching. She wasn't even like, she had just started to walk away, and Emily's like, oh my God, Sarah, oh my God, it's 100%. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm like,
What is it?
it was so cute because they were so excited. But then when they said what it was, and I'm like, that's pretty darn cool.
I think
So-
that is the very rarest
Yeah,
bird
yeah.
we have ever,
No,
not me,
I know.
others have found. And ruddy ducks, we have ruddy ducks all year long. They don't typically breed in Wisconsin much, if at all. Someone found juvenile ruddy ducks. We don't know if they nested there or if they flew there, unclear, but still cool. I always like a good ruddy duck. And then this is an example of how data are being compiled and used. So we were really lucky to have Jared Ganellis here. He is my former master's student who worked with myself and Dr. Paula Segra and Dr. Mandy Bannett on generating these really cool phenology graphs of our using migratory shorebird and migratory waterfowl data. And this is at a single site at Coyote Run. And there are two graphs. On the left is sort of an abundance measure, so mean number of individuals on the y-axis, and frequency or percent of visits that a killdeer is detected at across weeks of the year. You'll notice big gaps, of course. We're not monitoring killdeer in January, right? And we're not doing the migratory point count methods in the middle of the summer. So that's, yes, I know they're there in the summer, but that's just a gap in the data since we're not doing migratory shorebird surveys in June, or parts of June, I should say, and definitely not in winter. But you get a sense of how they change in frequency and then abundance. And Jared generated like 100 of these graphs for each species. No, more than that, hundreds per site, the three main sites we monitor, and then all combined. And these are going to be great, useful tools for talking about management decisions, which I'll talk about in a moment here. Other ways that the project has experienced restoration success, which is one of the goals for Oneida, is to understand, well, did the restoration work? Did I actually improve things for ecosystem function or for different wildlife? And in addition to the birds, the answer is a resounding yes. There's reproduction of anurans, frogs and toads. So we've got a young northern leopard frog on the left, American toad in the middle. Those are both from the site. This is a picture I stole from the internet. Spring peeper and painted turtle for the herps. But there's other turtles on site. But the other part of my expertise is frogs and toads. And as you probably know, a lot of them are really sensitive to pollution since their skin is semi-porous. Spring peepers are one of the most sensitive to pollution and habitat degradation. And the fact that they're there and reproducing, I found a baby. I mean, spring peepers are small anyway, but this was clearly a really young spring peeper who absolutely 100% reproduced at Trout Creek, which is incredible. And then this is a rusty-patched bumblebee, the only federally listed bumblebee in the country, also uses these restoration sites. So the data. So as I mentioned, we're collecting, entering, managing the data. We're housing it for Oneida Nation, and they're interested in working with us on talking about management decisions. Not everything, they're experts. They know a lot about what they're doing, of course, with traditional ecological knowledge and beyond. But birds are kind of a little bit of a gap of the knowledge of the current staff at Oneida. And so we're using these data to inform prescribed burns. As an example, I generated an ordination analysis that looked at how the birds were key breeding grassland birds were distributed across the prairie. And I was able to identify, hey, look, this is where the Henslow sparrows are primarily hanging out. This is where the meadowlarks are. This is where the bobolinks are, et cetera, et cetera. And so with that information, Tony has been protecting the Henslow sparrow area for now. They like dense litter layer. And so that he's been burning parts of the prairie all around it. And every time he relocates, we realize, oh, the Henslow sparrows, after some time has passed, are relocating to the other areas that have been burned. So eventually, of course, they'll have to burn the area that the Henslows are concentrating in, but it's a really cool application to kind of combine that. So that's one example. Water level management at Trout Creek specifically, they can manipulate how high or low the water is for shorebird habitat as an example. Okay, I'm really excited to pass this on to Joe because we're gonna now transition the talk to discuss and share with you some of the cool outreach and educational activities that we do.
Yeah, this is a really cool project. I know you heard Erin mention Sarah's name, and this actually was her idea. Like Tony had mentioned, or Anthony had mentioned, that I work with youth camps. And Sarah worked with the youth camp as well, and we had bird guides, but they weren't really pertinent to the Oneida lands. And so she's like, let's just make a little booklet for the students. And so we did, and then adults loved it and stuff. And then so this is one of her art drawings. And one thing I want to talk about too was this is the back. We're on version 3.0 now. We did 1, we did 2.0, now we're working on 3.0. 3.0 is going to have, it's called a 2-row wampum belt. And this is actually a belt that does still exist. When we first encountered the Dutch, this shows like 2 nations. It doesn't have to be the Dutch, could be anyone, where we live together but parallel, but we respect each other, which should really be what we're all doing right now. But so that's the wampum belt. But so this is a guide to bird identification. And the 3.0 version is going to be really cool because we're going to have, we talked about Randy Cornelius. Yes, I am enrolled in Oneida, but Randy is very knowledgeable about our culture, our traditions, and our language. I've learned a lot from him. He's an expert, like Erin had said, like I've gone foraging with him for mushrooms and everything, and and I swear to God, the man's like part mountain goat because we go down these ravines. And I'm like, okay, I'm done now. And he's like, oh, we gotta go back up here. And I'm like, anyway, I get exhausted.
He's gotta be what, 70?
Yeah.
Yeah, in his 70s and he just takes off.
Yeah, he just takes off. But another funny thing about Randy is he will not call himself an elder. And I'm like, well, if you're not an elder, I'm not an elder either because you're older than me. So we joke around about that. But yeah, so these are the contributors. Those are the these are actually these are drawings that Emma did, right?
The top 2.
They're the top 2.
Yes.
Like, because we had like pictures and stuff, but I mean, we have such talented artists, young people. And Emma's one of our high school interns that is returning again this year. But yeah, they're beautiful pictures. But talking about Randy, there is a story about how the birds got their song, which is Oneida story. I never heard it before growing up. And there it is. It's a beautiful story. I never heard it before, but basically I'll do like as Randy says, a Reader's Digest version and a mini Reader's Digest version. But basically when the earth was new, the creator came down and everyone had like their like all the animals had their noises and everything, but the birds were really kind of sad because they didn't have a song. They didn't have any, way of communicating. And so the creators gathered all the birds of the world, or we call Turtle Island. And they all came down and he goes, you'll be back, we'll be back here first thing in the morning. He goes, and you will get your song by how high you fly, how long you fly, then you will get your song. And there's actually, is it in the story?
This is only like the first one of 3 pages, I think.
There's actually a lesson in the story because like there was the oh, that's right, hermit thrush. Hermit thrush is a small bird, and he's thinking, how am I going to get a really beautiful song? He's looking at all these bigger birds. He goes, I'm not going to be able to fly as high or as long. And also he's like, I have an idea. He goes, I'm going to hitch a ride on the back of an eagle. The eagle will be so excited that he won't know. And so you come back next morning, sure enough, the eagle takes off, and the hermit thrush jumps on the back. The eagle doesn't notice at all. So all the birds are flying, and one by one they're coming down, and the eagle flew the longest and the highest. And it is said that the tip of his wing touched the spirit world, so therefore he's the leader of the birds. And it is his duty he reports to the creator, to the spirit world, of how humans are doing down here. And I'm sure right now that he's wondering what the heck's going on. But anyway, but so what happened was when he started to descend, the hermit thrush took off. Okay, this is enough. But all of a sudden, the eagle noticed, and he got really mad. So when you look at an eagle, he always looks very like mean and intense, and that's supposed to be where that came from, because he was mad because the bird cheated, and so they all came down, and the creator was watching, so he knew what was going on. But when the hermit thrush came down, he flew into the thicket, the really thick parts of the forest. And so all the birds came down, and the creator called them and he said, come here, come here. He called him like 3 times, and though he would not come. And he said, okay, this is going to be where you are from now on. You're going to be so hidden that hardly anyone can see you. You're going to have a beautiful song, but you'll do it once, and that'll be it. He goes, and this is just a lesson for you to learn that, and it's about cheating, and that being honest and being honorable and stuff. And so that was kind of the hermit thrush's punishment. That's why he's like in the thicket, in the really thick parts of the forest. So, but that's a really edited version. Randy tells it so much better.
Oh, it's great.
And so this is part of the book. The reason why we have Randy, we have Dr. Forrest Brooks, Dr. Fred Muscovich. They're either first speakers, first Oneida speakers, or they're linguists. And so what happened was they're helping us get the Oneida names of the birds. And when you go through the book, some of them do not have the Oneida name. And that could be for 2 reasons. One thing is a lot of our language was lost. The second reason is we're from upstate New York. So if these birds weren't part of that, that's probably another reason why we don't have a name for it. But they know the language, and so they're creating different names. And one thing you will notice is that Oneida language, along with a lot of other indigenous languages, are verb-based. So they're like, the great egret, one direction, it hangs up the mud, things like that. So like I always give the example of a table, the word for table. It's not table. It just means flat surface you put things on. So it could be a desk, it could be any flat surface. It's not just a table. And that's just part of the language. That's Oneida language and stuff. So, and then, okay, so these are, this is one of the events, outreach events I do. And this, the annual community days, like Erin had said. And we try to get people educated. That's actually part of my job, is try to get my community educated of what Oneida Conservation is doing. Like, they do so much hard work. And I didn't realize how much work they did until I started with the program, and they get unrecognized for it. So I saw my friends and my family, like, go and look and see what they've done. They brought back the native plants, and then the bugs followed, and then the birds followed. And so as nature's all connected, you can't alter one thing and it not having a chain effect, positive or negative. And unfortunately, it's always been negative for the species. But we have an annual event where the community, anyone's invited to come. That's Randy Kniss right there. That's part of the camp, the community day camp. Down there is basically my whole family, not my whole family, but everyone that pictures my family. And my good friend, she bakes from her out of her house, and she made that cake. She does they look beautiful and they are delicious. So we always have her make cakes and stuff for our events. And okay, that's another youth camp that I do. And we do take a trip to UWGB, and right there I'm talking, this is actually a board I did when I was at UWGB. It's a 2-spirit board, talks about the history, the meaning. And I love this picture because that's Randy. And I think he's actually telling the story about how the birds got their song. And he had talked about, it's our belief that when you're talking in your language, that everybody listens. the plants, the bugs, everyone listens. And I was sitting in the back, so you can't see me, but when he was talking, all of a sudden I looked at the sky and there was like a big, like, what do you call them, a flock of pelicans. They were just putting on a show for us, like flying over, doing all their cool little tricks like airplanes. I'm like, oh my God, it's really true. They're listening to Randy talk, they're flying around us and doing all this stuff. But that's one of my favorite pictures because I remember that. And the kids are, they have a great respect for Randy. They love Randy. They listen to him. But I will have to admit that sometimes I do think that I'm listening more intently than they are because I didn't know my own culture. And so I'm like, why didn't I know that? That's so cool. But yeah, so that's just basically the summer camp right there. And then this is working with the Oneida elders. Again, some of my family's in there. That's Elena No that works with Tony Kuchma. And we do take the elders out. That's Trout Creek. To get them outside, get them birding, looking through the scopes, binoculars. And this woman down here with the walker is Linda. And we're really excited because Erin, with some funds, was able to get a motorized scooter that goes through that really rough terrain. And she is gonna love it because she likes to go to all the birding events that we have, but it's hard for her to get around because of her walker. So that's when you're going up Trout Creek. As you can see, there's no paved roads or anything. We don't want that anyway. But so this motorized scooter will help her get further deep into the prairie and stuff and be able to admire more things. And then another farmers market is something I do right there is I started this program with Emily and Sarah. There we are at the event at the farmers market. That's our table. Those are our little props. We attract a lot of little kids with those props, but you have to tell them, no, you can't have them. Sorry. But yeah, so I table at the Oneida Farmers Market every other Thursday. And I've been doing that now for like the fourth year. The guy I work with is just so nice and just very welcoming and everything like that. So that's the Oneida Farmers Market. And it's cool because you can go, if there's more of us there, you can take turns taking breaks, go and getting something to eat or looking at the produce, the flowers, whatever's there. So it's a pretty cool event. And I always, I have a huge family, like ridiculously huge family in Oneida. And I have a lot of relatives, a lot of cousins. And so basically it's a social event for me because everyone comes and starts talking to me. But it's fun. I like it a lot. And then another thing I love to do is bring the volunteers, anyone who wants to come to the Oneida powwow every year. It's right now it's probably a little bit early, end of June, first part of July, and it's always really, really hot. So I was trying to tell people to dress accordingly, but that's some of our group right there on the hill. And that's me trying not to slide down the hill because I was sitting on a really slippery blanket, sliding down. But those are the dancers. That's the arena. That's the powwow grounds. But yeah, it's if you've never been to a powwow before, the Oneida powwow is very big. Like I think we attract well over 2,000 people because other tribes from all over the United States come, and a lot of the dancers and the drummers follow the powwow circuit because that's how they make their living. Because you can get some huge prize money in those contests and stuff. But so I like to bring them there. Everyone's welcome. We even have intertribal dances where everyone can dance, and Erin's danced, and Sarah, and you don't have to dance like they're doing their fancy dancing and stuff. I can't do that.
I'm a really bad dancer.
So they have to walk to the beat of the drum, and you're good. You're good. So that's the powwow. And then this is the annual volunteer banquet. And again, my friend Maria, that's the cake from this last year that she did. Is it cute?
Does it look like the shirt, Joe?
Yeah. This is my design. It's this hat. So my little logo's on. But yeah, so that's the appreciation banquet. We do like trivia games. We incorporate like Oneida culture and birds, and it's really fun. We also tell people, go sit by a bird expert, spread around because it's not going to be fair if all the bird experts sit together or all like Randy and his wife and all the Oneida sit together. They're going to get all the Oneida questions. So spread yourselves around and make new friends. But no, it's a really cool banquet. We order food. Well, right now we're getting the food from Off the Trail, which is Oneida owned business. really good, healthy food. And I love it. Okay.
Cool. So now we're gonna tag team the last slide before we open it for questions. So we've been asked before to provide advice or lessons learned about managing a volunteer program or working with the tribe. And so that's where this is coming from. So the first one for me to share, and then we'll bounce back and forth, is the volunteers really are the heart and soul of this program. We really truly would not be able to collect as much data as we do. Like hands down, it would be impossible. And so we do our very best to do whatever we can to make them as happy as we can to keep them coming back. So like this picture, right, and this event is so much fun. It gets people together. We provide them with gifts as well. And we do our very best to reimburse mileage to our volunteers. And then for the experts, we do provide like an honorarium each year when we have the money, which isn't always the case. They would do it anyway, but we want to give back and acknowledge their expertise and time. Same thing with Randy. We also give him honorarium and funding. Okay. That's yours.
Yeah, so I talked a little bit about the outreach and community events, a critical part of the program. One thing like that is so important, and Aaron touched upon it briefly, was yes, we are very welcoming, but if you come in a good way, you have to, if you want to do like data analysis and stuff with any tribe, you need to have a relationship. Do not think you're going to come in a total stranger and say, I want to do this, because we're going to say no. Because of our history, and Aaron had mentioned, people have come on to various reservations, Indian territory, have taken things without asking us, or have written books without our knowledge. And it's from their perspective, it's not from ours. So that's why it's important to, and Aaron is really good. I have to say, I love this program so much, but she's always very respectful. It's all about communication. She always asks me, she'll ask Randy, can we do this? Is this allowed? And well, most of the time it is. And we're all humans and stuff. So you just gotta try to be respectful and understanding of one another. But yeah, so the community events, like Erin, everyone knows her because she's been at the farmers market. She's done activities with the children's camp, with the elders. And so even like that one year we booked a thing to the community, the cultural park, and they normally charge. And when I called, they said, well, since Aaron Geezy has been so good to us, there's no charge. And so, and we are making an impact, we are making a difference. So I love that.
Well, it's thanks to you too. You are the person that is out mostly, more than me in the community. I think another important thing is to, if you are not tribal in a situation like this, is to become an ally or be an ally and an engaged ally to Indigenous people. And there are lots of ways you can do that. Respect, right? And coming to them in a good way and in a respectful way, in an open-minded way, and don't make assumptions and those kinds of things. You can support local businesses. So we really try, he already mentioned a couple of those. We always try to do our very best to buy from the Oneida community, or Joe, we support him by buying his t-shirts and stickers and all those kinds of things, and those sorts of things. And I think another important point is language and how we speak and what we say. There are a lot of things that I used to say that I didn't know were hurtful, or could be conceived as hurtful. So I really try to watch how I use my words. And I think Audubon is another one of those. I heard you all recently agreed to remove Audubon, is that right, from your chapter's name? Okay, I think, or no? Yes?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, yes, thank you. So did we, and it made a really big difference in this program. And by we, I mean our chapter here. We collaborate with Audubon Great Lakes, which they're wonderful people. They are a regional office of the National Audubon. They have no say in the name of their organization. That was a national board decision. I actually served on that national board for 2 years. And I was on the board when they voted to keep the name. I voted against, and I asked that it be dropped, but I lost. I wasn't the only one who voted to remove the name, but then I quit because I was like, I can't live with myself. So I quit the national board. And the worst part of that experience is we had just begun like building this amazing program, amazing relationships with our friends. And one of the two worst days of my life, we're telling Joe and telling Randy that the organization that they collaborate with decided to keep this harmful name from John James Audubon, who did horrible things to enslaved Black people and Indigenous people. And Randy and Joe were disappointed when I told them that. I told them I voted against it, and I really tried to make that change. But I told them I quit, and I think if I hadn't quit and I hadn't made forward progress with our chapter to change the name, things could have been different. So kudos to your chapter for changing the name. It can be very hurtful for people. So that's one example that we're really proud of, that our chapter has changed our name. And honestly, if you'd seen our old logo, you'd be like, oh, thank God, they really did an upgrade, because it had a Canada warbler, not even representative of our area, it was really busy logo. It's hard to understand what it was. This is pretty straightforward, I think. So happy with that. Okay, sorry. Wow, I got on a tangent.
No,
Yeah. Go
I
ahead.
never do that, Erin.
Yeah, me neither.
Be patient, open-minded when learning about new cultures. And like Erin has said, language is important. We're all humans. We may say things like, like Erin said, she never thought of things that might be considered harmful or disrespectful. And the thing is that if you own up to it and just say, I didn't know that, I appreciate that, I hear you, or whatever in your own words, that's fine. But if you keep on doing it and being disrespectful, again, that's going to have repercussions. And because there have been programs that similar to ours that have worked with various tribes, they're no longer because of disrespect. And so you just have to come in at a good way, be respectful, just ask questions, and if you say something, that you didn't know about, like me personally, or even Randy aren't going to be like, get down your throat or anything. We're just like, okay, that's fine, we understand, that happens. And then move on. And just kind of learn about the culture, like Erin's. That's one of the reasons why when we do trivia for the community, or not community event, volunteer event, so people learn. I mean, there's basic questions. I mean, they're not, I'm going to do like maybe a couple of hard ones, but they're very basic, like with the like what are our 3 clans and this and that, so just learning and be open-minded and stuff. And that's, and like, it's always, it's part of our way, is coming from things in a good way, coming at things with a good heart and open mind, and you make mistakes. We're human, as Randy says, we're the most pitiful creatures on the face of the earth. Human beings, and he also says jokingly, kind of, is that men are the most, men in general, more so than women, are more pathetic than, because that's just the way it is. But anyway, so that's a big thing, is just be open-minded and be willing to learn. Ask questions, don't be afraid to ask questions, because, I get that a lot, like, I hope this is appropriate, like, can I ask you a question? And most of the times, I can tell right away it's not going to be, because when you come in with that kind of mindset, trying to be respectful, I'm more than likely, I've never not answered anyone in a question or stuff like that. So let's put it that way.
And I want to add on to his comment about men are the most pitiful, that Oneidas are a matrilineal society, so women are in charge. So that's where that's coming from.
We're matriarchal and matrilineal, so women have a lot of power. I grew up with 8 sisters and 4 brothers, and my mom was full-blooded Oneida. My dad was Mexican Pueblo from Dallas, Texas, but my mom definitely was the disciplinarian. She was, my dad would be like, go ask your mom. And then my sisters too Oneida women are just very, very strong, very, very articulate, and they're very protective. Like I was telling Erin, like my older sisters, even sometimes my younger sister, were my bodyguards. I'm like, I mean, the Oneida men did not want to mess with them, so. So that's just kind of like, setting the tone, of how, of our culture, the Oneida culture. We're very matriarchal, matrilineal.
I love that. Yeah, this is the second to last bullet and Joe will close us out. If you are not familiar, I encourage you to leave tonight and embark on a learning journey. I co-founded this program in 2021 with Tony. And I knew almost nothing about current Native American people, Indigenous people. I didn't understand a lot of these things. I was the one asking all the questions and trying to learn as best as I could. And I was appalled to learn about things that have been hidden in our or not shared in our history lessons growing up as kids. There's a lot of trauma that has happened and been caused by European colonists when they arrived here and continue to cause trauma, such as forced kidnappings to drag young Indigenous kids into boarding schools where they were abused sexually, mentally, physically, all those sorts of things. And there are people still living from that era, or are people like Joe or others who have family members who endured that. And that continues. It's a generational trauma that continues. And that is just one example. There's still a lot of racism that you experience, other people experience from Oneida and elsewhere. And so I think knowing that really helps me think through and be an active member of this team and thinking about how you're building relationships. This is critical to know. And I think it's also critical for folks to understand the importance of tribal sovereignty, data sovereignty, thinking about things that have been taken and stolen, their language has been stolen, their rights, treaties have been broken. And so all of that has led to a lot of mistrust, rightfully so. It's not my fault, that I didn't cause that, but other people did. And I think it's important to recognize that and understand that when you are working with and building a relationship with a tribal nation or a tribal person or whatever, just I think it's really important to have that context in your mind. And then I'll leave it to Joe to close us off before we open it up for questions.
One thing I just want to add to what Erica just talked about. No,
Please,
no
yeah, go
problem.
ahead.
Is talking about generational trauma. My mom went to a mission school. She knew the language, but she never spoke it to us. And I didn't understand when we went to church why it was so militant, because that's the way boarding schools were run. A lot of them are run by either the military or the churches. And so that a lot of that stuff I didn't understand, like why would we have to walk into church and sit down, Episcopalian, sit down, kneel, pray, whatever, and we could not look around. My mom would generally turn my head forward because that's the way that they were treated. To be very militant, be very disciplined, don't act out, and stuff like that. But anyway, so that was just one thing. I am a descendant of that, so not that far off. Boarding schools weren't, they're not like something in the distant past. They're really not. But anyway, so talking about trusting relationships, take time, respect, and patience. So it's kind of like about everything we've been talking about, trust. Trust is such an important thing. It's also a very fragile thing. You can, I won't go into the things that I've experienced with this program. 99% positive. I've encountered a couple of people that I'm just like, Aaron gets more upset than I do because I'm used to that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, whatever. And then just respecting the culture, respecting the person as an individual is very important. It seems, and I grew up from my parents learning to be respectful. So to me, it's not a foreign thing, but these days, to a lot of people, it is a foreign thing to be respectful. It seems so easy, but it's not. And then be patient. you know, you don't understand some things. And there is a different, it's kind of funny. There is such a thing as native humor. And I have to, I have to tell that to Erin and to Emily and so when it first started. Basically, our humor can be a little bit dark at times, very sarcastic and very, again, sardonic. And I'm speaking specifically me. But that's how we've had to cope through generations of, you know, trying to wipe us out and everything like that. And what I tell them is that means that we like you. We're joking around with you and making fun of you, teasing you. If we don't do that, we probably don't like you. We're like really nice to you and like, yep, we probably don't like you. And that's just the way it is. But sometimes you have to, so I've kind of broke them in slowly. And then Randy's helped and Randy and I go back and forth and we have to watch ourselves sometimes because we do get a little bit carried away.
I now know your niece, Michelle likes me, because of that. So, what'd I do? I was like, oh, no, it's
Yeah,
okay.
because I mean, we like to joke around and in our culture, laughter is a big medicine. You know, you laugh and it releases so much tension and stress. So we're always joking around and I know me personally, I grew up in a huge family of 13. I'm number 11 out of 13. I mean, if I wasn't used to not getting picked on, that helped me build like a really strong shell and to be able to take it and give it back. As I learned later on, believe me, growing up with 8 sisters, you learn to give it back and you learn to take it. So, and they still treat me like a little boy, you know, but that's okay. That's the way families are. But yeah, so that would be it. Just respect, patience. It takes time. Especially if you want to build a relationship, if you want to do data or just show up at like Oneida Farmers or at wherever, what tribe, whatever, show up at the farmers market, show up, whatever, just different social events, wherever it's welcome, and people will start to, we may not seem we're paying attention, but we are. We will, if we start seeing you at numerous events, we'll probably eventually come up to you and just say, hey. But yeah, so, and like I said, Erin, and even the whole team, I should just say, the Center for Biodiversity, the Conference Center for Biodiversity, everyone there is so respectful, whether they're with the Oneida Birding Program or what they're into the plants or the spiders or the bugs or the water. We all have a common goal, and it's respect, and it's trying to conserve, trying to restore back what so much that has been destroyed and stuff. And so I love it. I think I finally found my niche after all this time. So like that's it for me.
Questions?
I was just wondering how a person or a group might obtain permission to go to some of those beautiful restored places.
I'm so glad you asked that. So how do you get involved? And we have flyers at the back that we encourage you to take. Anytime you want to come with us, you can visit our website. The QR code, all you need to do is open up your phone, open up your camera, and then hover it over the QR code, and then a link will show up. And once you click that, it'll take you to a place for you to join our weekly emails, get announcements, and then that website also has a sign-up calendar, which tells you every single time somebody's going to go out there. And so you're always welcome to join us. You can come every single time. You can come once and be like, okay, I'm good. Or you can come every couple of years. It's really no commitment in terms of your involvement. And that would allow you to visit the land, experience the birds, meet new people, meet new friends. And that's the best way. Otherwise, I didn't mention this, but it is tribal land. So I never, ever go there on my own time. I'm always there for the program or for an event because I am not tribal. That those lands are accessible for tribal citizens only, with one exception of the DOT wetland site.
Yeah.
That one's open to I know that doesn't mean anything, but there is a site there that is public access.
And we do have car magnets as well, like for the volunteers, the bird experts. So we put them on our car, like it looks like the t-shirt, that's my design.
Yeah.
So people, my community has now gotten used to seeing cars out there on like a Trout Creek on the berm or at where the waterbirds nest or wherever, they'll be like, I saw your group out the other day. You know, and so, but yeah, so like Erin said, I'm enrolled in Oneida and so is Randy, so we can go on whenever we want to. But
Sorry, I meant to, yes,
yeah,
thank you.
no, that's okay.
Yeah.
But like if you come with the program, you are welcome. You're welcome there.
Mhm.
But once you leave, that's it.
Just come back the next day.
Yeah, just keep coming with us every week. We do like 3-4 surveys a week.
It's literally 3 or 4 times every
Yeah,
single
yeah.
week, including weekends.
Yeah, including weekends. So like come with us
Yes.
and I will tell you like I'll tell the story because you know I mentioned it about the Sandhill crane. I grew up in Oneida. Okay. I went to school. I moved to Minneapolis for about 11 years. I came back home and I'm at my mom's house one morning and I'm drinking my coffee on her deck. And I hear this really weird sound. And I see this really huge bird flying really low. And I'm like, is that a baby pterodactyl? What is that? I never saw a sandhill crane once in my life growing up there. And that is just another example of bringing back the native vegetation and the bugs and the birds follow. There are so many birds, like right now, we like said, like a little over 200. The birds I never saw before. I never realized how many ducks there were, how many different breeds of ducks there were. But for me, it's very, very meditative. It's very healing. Go out in the morning, be surrounded, you know, with the bird experts and learning about them and just the sound of the birds, the wind, there's very little traffic. And then maybe later on that day, I can deal with humans, but not always. Not every human anyway. I'd rather be out there with birds.
Janet, another opportunity would also be to come to our community day, which is usually August, sometimes September.
Oh, the community day would be in August.
Usually
Yeah.
August, sometimes it varies, but that would be another opportunity and to get some yummy food.
And maybe get a cool t-shirt.
Yes. Yes, we give all our volunteers these shirts for free, so come with us. Yes.
So I guess mine's kind of a two-part-ish question. Did New Bird Alliance approach the tribe to start this monitoring program, or did they kind of reach out to you to collab? And then with that, obviously there's the Oneida tribe that's adjacent to the Northeast Wisconsin area. Are you familiar with, based on like your guys' experience and work, other tribes in the state that have expressed interest?
Yeah, really good question. So I'll take the first one
Sorry,
to start.
I know it's long.
Oh, no, it's okay. We often tell that story, but we now have too much to share that we've cut it out of the talk. But so essentially, how did the partnership form? It's an interesting story. So there was a gentleman named Brad Casberg who worked for Audubon Great Lakes. He was tribally affiliated, not with Oneida, but another tribe, I think based in Illinois. And I think that allowed him to feel comfortable to contact Oneida Nation. And he contacted Oneida Nation. Audubon Great Lakes, one of the things they're trying to do is spread their reach and expand their connections and restoration on the ground and protection efforts across those realms. And at that time, there wasn't much connection with Green Bay for the context. And so he reached out to Tony Kuchma and asked about like, hey, you know, do you want to collaborate on a restoration project together? And I had nothing to do with that. So they applied for a grant together, didn't get it, and ended up kind of building a relationship from that. And so they ended up talking to each other and learning. That was around COVID, actually. So we kicked this program off in the middle of COVID in the winter of 2020 to 2021. So we were all online. It was really weird. I'm sure everyone can attest how weird COVID was. But anyway, they started to chat and recognize like, hey, the Oneida tribe lost their ornithologist. And they started talking about the importance of post-restoration monitoring. Tony's really, really, really awesome at restoration and plants and bringing things back. But he's always been curious about like, okay, well, so what? Did it work? But it's hard to get funding and efforts started to do that. And so he and Brad talked a little bit about it. And Brad knew me And he was like, oh, well, there's this Audubon chapter, located in northeastern Wisconsin. Maybe we can get some volunteers to come monitor birds for you. And so then that was around the time where our chapter was really starting to think through our purpose and intention in working with more diverse groups of people. We wrote a land acknowledgement by then. We had written an equity, diversity, inclusion statement, and we were starting to really think about intentionally, like, how can we do better in bringing in different groups of people? So when I got that email from Brett, I was like, oh my God, that sounds awesome. I don't know anything about Oneida Nation, but yeah, let's do it. and so we built it from the ground up on a couple $1,000s that first year. We had a couple of volunteer experts. I had a student for a couple hours a week, and it was just us just slowly building it from the ground up. And then in the second year, we had just a little bit more money and we were able to hire, well, Joe also got a really cool scholarship that funded him, but other money paid for the other students. And we slowly built, the word got out, the program got bigger and bigger. So it's an interesting story, not as you would probably have expected. Your second question essentially is, are there other tribes asking us to monitor? Is that what you asked me? Or are there other?
Like, based on what you guys have done so far, has there, at least what you guys are aware of, other tribes in the state that are like, oh, they've got this really cool program. We kind of want to try this or collab with other.
Not to my knowledge.
Not really. I mean, a lot of the tribes are very impressed. And we've actually, was that 2 years ago, we had natives from different parts of the United States come up because they from like all the way from Arizona, because they heard about our program, they heard about the restoration, all the great things that were happening, and so they came out and visited us. But we do, because there's other neighboring tribes like the Menominee, there's Ojibwe, and stuff, and they'll sometimes they're married to an Oneida, whatever, and their children might be in the camps or just come out and volunteer. Just come with us and stuff like that, but not specifically has a tribe come and just said. And one thing that I want to say too is that like we're all sovereign, we all have our own way of governing.
Yes.
So the way we govern, the way the Oneida is governed, is not necessarily the way the Menominee, the whole chunk, and there's so many different bands of Ojibwe. There's Bad River and like the Flambeau, the Coudray, all that stuff. So we're all different. So one thing I would say is that you kind of have to become familiar with how our government process is. Each whatever tribe you're considering getting a relationship with, because some are more traditional, the way that they do their governing. We are not. We do like the Robert's Rules of Order and stuff like that. But you just have to be. I think the most important thing is, like we talked about, building a relationship and coming in a good way and showing them. It may take time, for you to build that relationship. But I think overall, I think it's worth it.
100%. Good questions.
Yes. Question about data sovereignty. Does that mean when you identify certain birds or something on the Oneida lands, do you not upload it to eBird? You just keep it among yourselves?
Great question. So we do point count surveys, standardized point count surveys for the migratory groups, breeding groups. Those are the data that we're talking about that are not shared with anyone else other than Oneida Nation. eBird is, of course, a fantastic program that scientists use millions of records for. And we do eBird, we do allow people, Oneida Nation allows eBird to be collected on the road to the north of the prairie, which is a public road. So technically, that you can't stop someone from parking their vehicle unless you're obstructing traffic, but like parking the vehicle and observing. And so they submit checklists that way. However, there are two sites, one in particular that holds really important traditional ceremonies. And so we do not allow anyone to eBird that location at all, ever. And it's because we don't want to attract people. Of course, if I use eBird hotspots to find out where the heck to go find birds, right? And so if we had an eBird hotspot there, then people would show up when they shouldn't. So we're careful and we work closely. Tom Presby from Audubon Great Lakes worked with Tony on identifying what are places that we could set up eBird hotspots and what are not. Yeah, great question.
Wow. Anything else there? I answered the one question they wanted
Yes,
to know
I
what
saw.
website that was. So
Thank you.
any others? All right. Well, thank you, Erin and Joe, so much. We really yeah, this is really great. I just have a few announcements. If I'm doing this right, trying to remember all these things in the calendar year of being president. The Board of Directors Elections Committee is Willow Kingle and Scott Riley. There was an announcement in the newsletter as well. So if you wanted to nominate yourself or somebody else, you would want to contact Scott or Willow to make sure that your names are on there, because next meeting we will elect and do all that stuff. There is a naming committee that has been formed. Well, like we're changing our name, but we haven't done that yet. So in process, the naming committee will be Brad Branwell is chairing it with Luke Trittowitz. Anthony Martinsky is also on it. John Munson is on it. Thank you, John. And then Nancy Turek, which a lot of you probably know as well. So those 5 will be getting together. Any other information you want to share? They're working on finding a time, right? Yeah.
Anytime, yeah, we'll work.
There is a little note on our website. So if you had an idea for a name, you want to be considered by this group of people, please go to the website. It's right on the home page. You can submit a suggested name that they are reviewing. People have been sending theirs in, so that's helpful for that committee. All right. And then I'm just going to run through some programs because we're hitting the end of the year, but it's like May, so peak migration, everything is happening. You probably heard the morning is so exciting. Prairie chicken blinds. This was a really exciting field trip we did. It's full, sorry everyone, on the 29th and 30th, but I'm really proud of our chapter for kind of working with getting that field trip up and running, getting a lot of people to go in. That has been very exciting. So they'll be going out on the 29th and 30th. I know I've been seeing some photos online, and the Prairie Chicken Festival happened last weekend. So the booming's happening. So a lot of fun, exciting things. Wild Loosing weekend. So if you wanted to go on a camping weekend, we've been trying to do some of these overnight trips. Wild Loosing, there's a group of people going on May 2nd and May 3rd. So sign up for that if you wanted to go. You can RSVP. And then I forget who's leading that. Is Anthony still on? Anthony, are you helping lead that? Or is it Rob? Rob, you on?
I know that Rob will for sure. I'm still working on trying to get the day off.
Okay. So. Oh, Rob, I think your sound again is not coming through. It's breaking up. So talk to Rob about that. You could also RSVP, and then we get the list and they'll let you know about the logistics for those who can make it. We have What's Up on the Bluff, a very regular field trip. We have Bob here on May 9th. That's coming up. So that's a really great one. Local walks are continuing. Sarah Wood is a board member, and she's going to do a special hike for one of our local walks. It's going to be at Suez on April 25th, and it's a special focus, really encouraging youth to also come out since it's at Suez, Central Wisconsin Environmental Station. And then there'll be some Schmeekly local walks coming up in May. And then our last speaker is May 20th. And the last thing, well, we actually have summer programs too this year, but we'll talk about that in May. We are going to do World Migratory Bird Day, banding birds at Schmeekly with me and a group of board members to help out with that. And that's going to be May 23rd. I'm sorry, I don't have it posted yet, but stay tuned. I'll get that up really soon.
I have a poster on the bulletin board though.
Oh, you do? Thank you. Because I'm really behind on that. So thanks everyone for coming tonight. We greatly appreciate it. And thanks Erin and Joe. We do have snacks and refreshments again, so enjoy those.